Did you know that you can read anyone's mind using 3 simple, yet profoundly powerful techniques? Imagine the possibilities, the doors that could open before you with this knowledge. Below, we will embark on a journey to uncover these mystical techniques that have been closely guarded secrets of the wise for centuries. These techniques are not just methods, they are keys to unlocking the deepest chambers of human thought and emotion. By mastering these, you don't just read minds, you connect with souls. Let's delve into a mesmerizing Buddhist story. The story begins like this. In a small town a long time ago, there lived 2 brothers. The older brother was blind, so he spent most of his time at home, while the younger brother worked as a farmer in the countryside. They often found the farm completely destroyed by wild animals. The younger brother was worried about this problem, but eventually, he came up with a solution after what happened on the farm. He thought this: why don't I ask my blind brother for help? He could sit among the crops and alert if he hears any noise of animals. In this way, it would guarantee our crops. After meditating on it, the younger brother erected a small hut in the field and took the older brother inside. He explained, "Brother, if you hear any evil sound, just shout and scare them away. This will preserve our crops." The older brother accepted his brother's proposal and began to take his place in the field. Every time he heard the sound of animals, he shouted to scare them away. So, they continued with this routine for several days. On one occasion, a deer crossed the field quickly, knocking down part of the fence before fleeing. Shortly after, a king who was following the deer also arrived at the place. The monarch pointed to the blind brother and asked him, "Have you seen a deer around here?" The blind brother responded, "Your Majesty, I am blind. How can I see a deer? However, I can tell you that the animal that abandoned my field does not deserve your pursuit. You are wasting your time." The king was surprised by the blind brother's words and asked him how he knew. He doubted if the blind brother was lying since he claimed to be blind but gave his opinion on the value of the deer. In response, the blind brother said, "Your Majesty, the animal that you think is a deer is actually a pregnant doe. I have never heard of a king hunting a pregnant doe. So, I tell you that it is not worth your chase. You should not waste your time chasing her." The king was astonished, hearing this, unable to understand how the blind man could identify the deer as pregnant. He wondered how a blind man could know this. How could he be sure whether the deer he was chasing was pregnant, or he did not feel the need to check it, and instructed his commander, "Commander, I want that animal alive. I need to confirm if it is really a pregnant deer. The blind brother seems to be very sure about it, and I need to investigate. Please go and find out if she is pregnant." The king's orders were received by the commander, who left. When he returned, he informed the king that the blind brother was right and that the deer was pregnant. The king was filled with astonishment and could not understand how the blind person knew about the pregnancy of the doe. He wondered how a blind man could know this. How could he be sure if the deer he was chasing was pregnant or not? He asked the blind brother to get to the bottom of this. He expressed to him, "Perhaps you are not sure about whether you are truly blind or not, but I have come with a question. You undertake to provide me with the correct answer." In response, the blind brother stated, "His Majesty, you can ask me whatever you wish, and I will answer you honestly." The king commented, "You are a perceptive individual, and it seems that you have a deep knowledge of various issues. Today, I have called to find out whether my wife is being unfaithful to me or not." The blind brother replied, "His Majesty, why do you ask such a question? Your marriage has lasted for many years, and now such questions arise in your mind." However, the king insisted, stating that he must answer. To this question, if you do not provide an answer, I will subject you to the death penalty. Due to the threat of the king, the blind brother expressed, "His Majesty, if you wish to know the answer, you must grant me a favor." The king asked, "Tell me what I should do." The blind brother replied, "For this, you will have to leave me alone with your wife in a room." Initially, the king became irritated at the proposal but eventually accepted the request and ordered his commander to leave the blind brother and the queen alone in a room. At that moment, the blind brother expressed his desire to have physical contact with the queen. Faced with this statement, the queen became enraged and attacked the blind brother with fury using her hands, feet, and all her strength. After the altercation, the blind man managed to escape and went directly towards the king. Immediately afterward, the blind brother informed the king, "Your Majesty, your wife is not faithful." Enraged, the king drew his sword and walked towards the queen, proposing that any lie would result in his execution. The question was about the queen's fidelity, to which she responded, "Your Majesty, you can kill me, but I am not faithful." The king was relieved to confirm that everything the blind brother said was true. Upon hearing this, the king immediately went to the blind brother and asked him how he knew that his wife was not faithful. The blind man responded, "Your Majesty, it is quite simple. I mentioned to your wife my desire to touch her, and she reacted with such fury that she began to hit me. Instead of refusing, she opted for violence, thus touching my entire body in the process. Now tell me, how can a woman who acts in that way be faithful?" Impressed by the wisdom of the blind man, the king said, "You are very insightful. Let's continue. Answer another question correctly, and I will free you." The king asked, "Tell me, am I really the son of my father or someone else?" To this, the blind brother answered, "His Majesty, why are you worried about this question? It doesn't matter who your parents are. You are the king of this kingdom. Let this question dissipate." However, the king insisted, "No, I do not want the exact answer, otherwise, it will always torment me. So, I wish to know the truth." The blind brother replied, "His Majesty, I can reveal to you whose son you are right now, but first, I need your promise that you will not be angry." The king said, "I promise that I will not be angry with you." Then, the blind brother revealed, "You are truly your father's son, but you are also under the influence of a stingy merchant." Hearing this, the king ran to his mother and told her. He asked, "Mother, please tell me the truth. Am I really the son of my father or someone else? If you don't tell me the truth, I will give up my life right here." The king's mother replied, "Son, you are truly your father's son, but you are also under the influence of a stingy merchant." Full of relief, the king immediately returned to the blind brother. He asked him, "How did you know that the shadow of a stingy merchant was hanging over me?" The blind man replied, "Your Majesty, I have answered many of your questions correctly, and yet, until now, I have not received a single penny from this. I deduce that you are extremely stingy." The king burst into laughter and said, "Whatever you ask, I will grant it to you. But tell me, how do you know what is right and what is not? How can you provide such precise and exact answers?" The blind brother said, "His Majesty, I am blind by nature. If I had eyes, I could easily understand the thoughts of anyone. The mind has its language, and this language is reflected in the actions of a person's body. By observing the eyes, the lips, the way they work, and the activities of a person, one can understand what is happening in his mind. Based on this, we can know anyone's thoughts. But I am blind, so I perceive through actions. If I want to know something, I have to assign a task to the next person to see how he performs the task, and based on that, I can understand what is going on in his mind." The king posed, "Then it means that I can also understand someone's thoughts?" To this question, the blind brother answered, "Undoubtedly, you can also grasp the thoughts of any person, but before that, you need to work on yourself. Work consists of quieting your mind and bringing it to the present. For this, Today I will reveal 3 very simple and accessible methods. However, Your Majesty, before delving into it, you must perform an action to concentrate your mind. When we focus our mind and connect it with the moment, in the present, we can understand the thoughts of others since that person is thinking in the present. It is essential to also bring our minds to the moment. Only then can we understand their thoughts if we are absorbed in past events. How will we know what the other person is thinking at this moment? We are immersed in past events. To decipher someone's thoughts, it is essential, first of all, to focus our minds and bring them to the present. Immediately, the blind brother continued, "Now, Your Majesty, I will reveal to you the 3 simple ways by which you can easily understand the thoughts of any individual." Immediately afterward, the blind man shared with the king, "Oh, Your Majesty, the first method is to pay attention to the eyes. When we start a conversation with someone, the most crucial thing is to look at their eyes since the eyes, although they do not speak, communicate a lot. I learned this skill from the venerated Buddha Gautama many years ago when he was my teacher and guide. Back then, he had eyes and could discern people's thoughts only through his eyes. If you want to understand the thoughts of others, you must concentrate on their eyes, on their gaze, in the direction to which they orient themselves. If, while you talk to them, their eyes move from one side to the other, it indicates that they are looking for a way to evade the conversation and that someone is possibly lying. If they avoid direct eye contact, it could mean that they fear that their deception will be discovered and let the truth come to light. However, if they stare at you without looking away, they are probably sincere and willing to share their thoughts with you too. Pay attention to how their eyebrows move. If they lower them while looking away, it could be a sign of intense reflection or concern about another matter. If instead, they raise their eyes and their eyes widen, they could be surprised or intrigued by what you are saying. Also, observe the size of their pupils since they reveal a lot. By not stopping looking at me, showing concern and desire to leave quickly, I suspected that perhaps he was hiding something and did not want to prolong the conversation. By asking more questions, I discovered that he had a secret plan. Similarly, different facial expressions can give us access to a person's thoughts. Sometimes, a person reveals different moods through their face. If we concentrate on their facial expressions, we can discern whether they are deeply sad, disappointed, or extraordinarily happy. The eyes and body are the messengers of these feelings. In moments of sadness, they will reflect that emotion, while an authentic smile is one that illuminates the eyes and lifts the cheeks, indicating joy, kindness, and benevolence. The eyes play a crucial role when they narrow and shine. You can trust that the smile is genuine. Additionally, notice the space between the eyebrows where the skin wrinkles when tense and often indicates confusion, deep thoughts, or effort to understand something complicated. The second way, His Majesty, lies in paying attention to body language. The body and hands have the ability to communicate a lot without resorting to words, constituting a kind of secret language where you can perceive what people want and feel through small actions. Imagine someone who, while speaking to you, quickly taps his fingers or makes a repetitive sound when hitting something. This could signal boredom, haste, or a desire to end the conversation. I remember an encounter in which I met someone who was trying to sell me something. During the conversation, his fingers tapped rapidly on the object he was promoting, so I could interpret that he was disinterested or eager to end the conversation. In the opposite way, when someone remains still and adopts a relaxed posture, this indicates that he is paying careful attention. This behavior reflects his genuine interest and desire to hear more. I remember an astute professor who used to adopt this posture. Although he was calm, he leaned forward with interest, expressing his desire to delve deeper into the subject. Sometimes people who constantly manipulate their faces while speaking can provide you with clues about their thoughts. This gesture usually indicates concern, deep reflection, or discomfort with something. Also, the movement of the hands can reveal a lot. For example, If someone quickly touches their nose during a conversation, it could suggest that they are lying or not being completely sincere. Observe the attention they dedicate to our words and understand what is happening in their minds can facilitate the interpretation of their thoughts. However, before doing so, it is crucial to focus your mind and bring it to the present. Only then will you be able to pay attention to all these actions, interpret them, and perceive what is happening in the person's mind. If you are engrossed in past or future events, you will never be able to pay attention to the person's body language, and you will never understand what they are thinking. Now, Your Majesty, let's move on to the third way. Before sharing it with you, it is imperative that you focus your mind. When we direct our attention and anchor it in the present, we are able to understand the thoughts of others since that person is immersed in the here and now. Likewise, it is necessary to bring our minds to the present. Only then will we be able to capture their thoughts. Continuing with the third way, the blind brother expressed, "O king, to understand the thoughts of someone, pay attention to their voice." The voice has the power to reveal a lot about what a person is thinking and feeling. Fast and rushed speaking can denote nervousness, anxiety, or excitement. You found someone who speaks slowly and relaxed is probably calm and in control. Also, observe the tone of their voice. A high and sharp tone can indicate anger or frustration, while a soft and calm tone indicates tranquility and relaxation. I remember once I talked to someone who pretended to be happy, but his voice was tense and raised. This discrepancy raised doubts about your authentic happiness. The voice can also reveal emotions, such as when someone sighs, screams, or laughs genuinely. By paying attention to the way they pronounce the words and the tone they use, you can easily understand their thoughts and emotions. That's right, Your Majesty. These are the 3 ways that I have shared today. Observe the person's eyes, body language, and voice. Focus your attention on these 3 aspects, and you will be able to easily understand anyone's thoughts. However, remember, you must first focus your mind and bring it to the present. Only then will you be able to pay attention to all of them. Interpret these actions and perceive what is happening in the person's mind. In this way, you will be able to know their thoughts and elevate your life.